We come back to our Mariners, who probably would like to get away from any memory of their road trip that they just went on, a 10-game road trip.
Sure would.
We talked about it even from last week to the week before that, because it's been a 10-game road trip. Man, it was not kind to our friends. So over the past week, we record from Monday to Monday. So anything Monday night, we have to include in the next show.
Right.
September 19th at the Angels. So a 4-game set. The Mariners lose the first 3. They salvage game 4 in a 9-1 win. 2 players of the game here with a lot of offense. First baseman Ty France, 2 hits, 2 runs, and 4 RBIs, including a solo home run. And then Carlos Santana, Slamtana, 2 hits, 2 runs, 5 RBIs, living up to the nickname of Slamtana with a grand slam as well as a solo homer. So Carlos continues to slam.
Yeah.
Then the Mariners head up to Oakland to take on the Athletics for a few games, a 3-game set to be exact, and things don't get much easier there. They lose the first 2 games. September 20th, 4-1 loss. Player of the game, once again, Carlos Santana, 1 hit and the only run for Seattle. And then September 21st at the Athletics, a 2-1 loss, a narrow 1-run loss. Player of the game, pinch hitter Luis Torrens. So Luis, in his first game back from AAA, in his first plate appearance, hits a solo homer. 1 hit, 1 run, 1 RBI, provides the only offense for Seattle there. And another, you can see, I've complained about it essentially all year, the offensive inconsistency. You see the 9-run game and then back-to-back 1-run games.
Oh my gosh! Don't even get me started with inconsistency, because you're still moving on to what I thought was another very disappointing series.
Yeah. So wrapping up the Athletic series. Again, talk about the inconsistency. A 9-5 win on the 22nd. 2 players of the game there. Center fielder Jared Kelenic. Yes, Kelenic's back, and we'll get to that in a minute. 2 hits, 2 runs, 2 RBIs, and a walk. Second player of the game. This is for Liv. I'll just leave it at that. Photographer Liv Lyons. Second baseman Adam Frazier. 2 hits, 3 RBIs, and 4 total bases. Can't argue with 3 RBIs, though. That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
But yes, he lures the first few games of that series. Salvage the last game. Not exactly a decent recipe. And then, as Bel mentioned, with the difficult series, head to Kansas City. I mean, look at this. Anaheim, Oakland, Kansas City. Those are some of the worst teams in all of the American League, let alone baseball.
Those are teams that we were sitting here a couple of weeks ago saying these are likely going to turn out well. Yeah.
We were looking at this at the beginning of September, even late August, and you're like, okay, it's tough right now because Baltimore's on a hot streak. Toronto and Tampa Bay are still hanging around. But those latter 2 teams are supposed to play each other a bunch, and you should be able to take advantage of a bad schedule.
Right. It didn't happen that way.
No. We look at this Royals series, September 23rd, a 5-1 loss. Again, the 1 run. Player of the game, catcher Cal Raleigh. Cal, 1 hit, 1 RBI, and a 1 run and 1 walk. September 24th at the Royals, a 6-5 win. So they come back after being down. Cal Raleigh hits a pinch hit 2-run homer to finish his day. 2 hits, 1 run, 3 RBIs. Hitter hits a double off the wall to give the Mariners the go-ahead run. Andres Munoz comes in and shuts it down. The Mariners get that win. So it's like, okay, you won the 2nd game of the series. Maybe you could win the 3rd game.
Yeah. And it looked that way for a while.
Yeah. September 25th at the Royals, a 13-12 loss. That's almost a football score. Player of the game, right fielder Mitch Haniger, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. That September 25th game, the Mariners had an 8-run inning. I'm sitting there as a fan at the Seahawks game on Sunday. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll post the score later. I won't have to worry about the rest of that game. Service is bad inside of Lumen Field, by the way. It's like an hour later, and I look down at my phone, and the MLB notifications pop in, and all of a sudden,
if we didn't get those then.
We're down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh. And it wasn't anger, it wasn't sadness. It was just more, again, disappointment. considering how
Okay,
rough this
interesting.
road trip has been, you as we've seen it go on the little scroller here. The Mariners go 3-7 over the course of their 10-game road trip. Like you said, should have been an easy one. I don't have answers for you. The pitching, which has carried this team for the longest time, has been hitting duds every once in a while here, and the offense does you no favor in terms of run support. So those two together, those two negatives don't make a positive. This isn't
No.
math. Well, not that kind of math, at least. And it's been really unfortunate. I know technically the Mariners still have really high playoff chances and should essentially break that drought. We'll get to that being official probably next week. But regardless, now it's not necessarily at this point in the season, I know that we should just be grateful for having the drought end, but at the same time, knowing that you can take the number one wild card spot, host 3 games at home in front of raucous crowds, in front of the city that's been starved for that, knowing that you've got that opportunity and it's like slipping away and you're just kind of like, after the 6-5 win against the Royals, Shippy Crawford's like, we've got a pretty good group. We're like in a good spot mentally, despite what social media says because of the road trip. We're good in here. And then that happened. I was what I was upset about after that loss wasn't necessarily the 11-run inning that they gave up, was the fact that comment was made. It was like, oh yeah, we're good.
Are you?
What the hell was that?
Yeah.
I know Scott Service said that after that game, that horrific loss, they had a team meeting. You have to hold yourself accountable for a really, really ugly loss and an ugly road trip. Now we look at this upcoming homestand and you play again some of the worst teams in the American League. Does it matter? I don't know if it matters, because with the way you've been playing, I don't think it matters if you've got certain guys. Even with Suarez and Julio out, you should be winning these games.
Yeah.
Considering the roster you're playing, whoever the hell Oakland is fighting in the stadium to play their games. The Royals, I mean, you look at some of the pitching matchups that we post, you think, wow, okay. You've had offensive inconsistency issues all year. That's on the hitting coach. So he should be out after this year, regardless of what happens. The pitching all year has carried you. So for them to hit a couple lumps, I'm not going to be upset about, because they've been your driving force. Yeah. But it's really frustrating to see all this. But now they've got the off day today, and you've got to flush it before tomorrow against the Rangers. And I won't. We'll take a second here to take a breather, because it's all anger. But tomorrow, before the Mariners take on the Rangers at T-Mobile Park, I'm sure if you follow, we're on the Converge platforms, obviously, so I'm sure you've seen it by now. But if you haven't, Baseball Beyond Borders, the Reconciliation Tour, I believe the film is premiering tomorrow at T-Mobile Park. Yes. I think limited tickets are available. So we're going to play that trailer right now and take a minute to decompress from the anger of that road trip.
Baseball is a beautiful game, especially when played in community. Earlier this summer, Baseball Beyond Borders took a powerful, eye-opening journey through the heart of the South, which included baseball, civil rights, and reconciliation. Our young kings hosted a baseball clinic at Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi, and hit the road to Montgomery, Alabama by way of the historic Edmund Pettus Bridge to visit the Equal Justice Initiative Museum and Memorial, all in an effort to ground our kings in their history and find serenity in the sport they love to preserve the cultural legacy. Join Baseball Beyond Borders on September 27th for the premiere of our film, Reconciliation Tour, at T-Mobile Park's Ellis Pavilion from 3 to 5 p.m. Hear from those on the front line as well as special guests as we elevate our promise to bring healing through play. For tickets or to donate, visit baseballbeyond.org or check our social media platforms.
That'll be a pretty special film, and excited to just see it. I won't be there at T-Mobile Park tomorrow. A friend over here will be there. So I'm sure people have already commented on some of the trailers. Sorry, I lost the word there. But I know they'll be there in attendance. That should be really fun to see that, hearing from some of the people who were down on that tour, knowing that Dan Wilson was there and the moments that were shared there. It's it seems like
Yeah.
it's just really special and a really well put together trailer. So you can only imagine what the actual film itself will be like. So excited to see that take place. That's tomorrow, September 27th, Ellis Pavilion. If you don't have tickets, there might be some available still. But regardless, I know the Converge will have that available, that film as a whole coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
So we look over to players of the week here. Is a tough week, and again, with the frustration of that road trip, it's like, do you want to give anybody?
No. I was hard. I went the
Bel
route.
went with the tough love route. I went with Jared Kelenic, just considering how he's been since coming up. 16 plate appearances, 6 hits, 5 runs, 3 doubles, 1 homer, 2 RBIs, 12 total bases, 2 walks, a 375 batting average, a 444 on base percentage, a whopping 750 slugging percentage. I mean, 3 doubles, God, and a 1.194 OPS. The Jared Kelenic situation is very tough because there's been a lot of criticism on him, with considering that he traditionally is a center fielder. And you've got Julio and the emergence of Julio Rodriguez. There's the comparisons. There's the expectation with him being a really highly touted prospect from the Mets in that trade that sent Robbie Cano and Edwin Diaz over. There's really high expectations for Jared Kelenic. We've talked about this throughout the year. He is 23 years old. Baseball prime is until 27. And the same sort of thing happened last year. He made his debut last year, struggled. His first hit was a homer. I think he had a 2-homer game. But he kind of struggled until he hit September. And then September, Jared Kelenic was something else. It was like, whoa, because he's had trouble with his batting stance. He kind of changes it up too much. It's like, why are you changing it? Just relax. Stay. Right. And I mean, it's September, Jared Kelenic again. He's back and he's doing stuff like that. He's contributing. I joked with my dad and a friend of mine is like, they joked, it's like, he's going to be the savior. And he's really been helpful. I don't know if savior is the word, but he's been a contributing member of this team. Trust me, I liked Jay Lamb. He's a Husky, but he shouldn't have been kept likely over Jared.
Yeah.
He's worked great at bats, and that's what people want to see is better at bats. It doesn't have to be a homer every time. It's want to be just a better overall approach. And I've rooted for Jared the entire time. Some of the stuff's been frustrating. He gets people like, oh, he's way too uptight. But there are a lot of expectations around him. So I've been told I've been uptight in the past. And I've tried to work on that. So I can see where he's going with that. But I don't like closing the door on this guy just yet.
No,
and
I agree.
I know that the run last year meant a lot to him. Obviously meant a lot to a lot of people, but for him to be involved in that is special. And, if you look that last game where Kyle Seager retired, but they showed the dugout and Jared, because the Mariners, they lost that game regardless. But once they find out that there's no playoffs, there's a video of him in the dugout just weeping in general tears. I know this means a lot to him. So for him to be back with the big league club, to be contributing, it's awesome. It's really awesome. So I just really hope that he can continue this and really continue to contribute to this ball club. So
did you see the comparison in his attitude to Kawhi Leonard?
I mean, if it works like Kawhi Leonard's career track, go ahead, man. I don't care.
I just think people are going to have something to say all the time. And so he's doing well. And so now you're going to criticize the way he's celebrating or not celebrating. Yeah.
That's a good point. I think that's a really good point. It's like some people with some players, there's just always something to pick apart. So I think that's a good thing to mention. Speaking of good things, well, they're good now. As I read this, it won't be as good. For injury-related news, on the 22nd, Julio Rodriguez left the game against the Athletics with lower back tightness, so he continues to struggle with lower back issues. On the 23rd, Julio was placed on the 10-day injured list with a lower back strain. Once those 10 days are up, he can play the last few games of the regular season against Detroit, and we'll get to some updates on that. And then on the 25th of September, Jesse Winker left the game against the Royals with a left wrist bruise. He was hit by a pitch and actually drove a run in. He had to leave that game with a bruise. So I haven't got anything official yet on Winker there. And, obviously follow us on social media. We'll update you as soon as we can on that. As Matt dropped the helpful little, I'm going the wrong way. I'm always struggling with the mirrored side of things right there. social media. We look over to team-related news on the 21st. With Jared being back comes roster moves.
Of course.
So 4 moves happened. The team recalled outfielder Jared Kelnick from AAA Tacoma, as well as catcher Luis Torrens was selected from AAA Tacoma, with catcher Kurt Casale going on paternity leave. So good for that.
Congrats to him.
Outfielder Taylor Trammell was optioned to AAA Tacoma, and infielder/outfielder Jake Lamb was designated for assignment. On the 23rd, though, Trammell would be recalled from AAA Tacoma with the injury to Julio Rodriguez.
Yes.
So Taylor didn't go very far. Yes. So it's nice to see both Jared and Luis performing well again. I have to admit, Kurt Casale has been a little bit of a disappointment, as a trade deadline acquisition just hasn't really produced what you'd hope for as a backup catcher, and maybe Luis will take those reins from him. On the 24th, more sort of good news, the team officially extended right-handed pitcher Luis Castillo on a 5-year deal, pretty similar to Robbie Ray's deal. Seattle extends their
damn time.
Yeah, I know people have been waiting for this. Seattle extends their ace, which they acquired at the trade deadline, on a 5-year, $108 million. The deal has a 6-year vesting option that can take it up to $133 million. Essentially, basic wise, what that means is if he performs well, option. If he performs less, worse of an option. The deal begins this upcoming year and runs through the year of 2027, with a player and club options for the 2028 season. If you've got good pitching, you're going to do well. And it's just funny. In some of the pregame pressers Scott's has, I've paid attention to how he talks about Luis. Is just like, he's really excited. As a former catcher, I'm sure he's really excited to have the kind of pitcher that Luis is on this club. He's got great stuff. He's really exciting, and he's just really, like, you watch some of the videos post-game where those guys are celebrating, you see this big goofy grin on his face a lot of the time. So you can tell he's happy to be here, and just hoping that, we can give him some damn run support.
Yes.
And do well behind him. So that was, like Bel said, it's about damn time that happened. And Jerry DiPoto said it too. They had their press conference today, but he said this before, that there's a commitment to building a championship roster, and you are going to have a pitcher like Luis on your team if you're going to get to that sort of point anyway. So lesser news on the 24th as well. Jake Lamb declined his outright assignment and will become a free agent. I don't really understand that. If he could have elected to just be outrighted to Tacoma, he could still be on a playoff team. But now, since he's become a free agent, and I think it's past the deadline, he can't be part of a playoff team.
Do you think there's some saltiness to that?
I mean, he contributed here and there, but I really, he struggled. And a lot of the outside of the Castillo deal, I didn't understand a lot of the trades.
Yeah.
And, like, Matt Boyd's been solid, but Lamb and Casale, I'm just like, what are we doing? Know? So, again, he's a Husky, and he went to Blanchette. I went to O'Day, so I don't really feel very strongly about Blanchette, but he was a Husky. So I'm like, that's cool to see. He just didn't perform. And so at a time, you got to put the sentimentalism away. But yes, so before I continue to league news, I had to write it down here. I have to apologize. My memory isn't the best. We're going to give away 4 Mariners tickets total this upcoming homestand. 2 to game 162 against the Tigers on October 5th. Unfortunately, that start time hasn't been announced yet. It still says TBD, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But that's considering that the Mariners and Tigers played a doubleheader the day before. And that's the last game of the regular season. So game 162 is October 5th. 2 tickets to that. Lower bowl. I don't do upper bowl. So there'll be lower bowl tickets. And then, yes, that's a Wednesday, October 5th. That's the last game of the regular season. We'll be on site for that. We're gonna be with you all homestand for this Mariners. The closest they can clinch is Thursday. So we're gonna, trust me. If you've been following us, how much this means to us, let alone the city. So we'll be with you all homestand. And then there are 2 tickets to game 159, October 2nd versus Oakland. That's a Sunday. So
that is a Sunday.
4 total tickets. We'll have more official rules on that within this upcoming week before those games actually take place. But bottom line, you have to be following us on Circling Seattle Sports. Matt, you put me back. Yep. Instagram, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, so you can be a part of that. We want to get people out in this building regardless of if you win these tickets or not, if you can make these games, please do so.
out
There are
there.
several games where there are value tickets for $10, pack the building. I mean, I know there was all the excitement of last year, but the team has a much better chance this year at making it. They don't have to rely on as much. They've put themselves in a better position compared to where they were this time last year. So you're going to want to be a part of something special.
Mm-hmm.
I just get emotional talking about it.
No.
We won't do that. But 4 tickets to game 159 on October 2nd versus the Athletics, and 2 to game 162 against the Tigers on October 5th. Make sure you're following us on social media, Instagram at CirclingSeattleSports, Twitter at CirclingSports. If you put CirclingSeattleSports, though, you'll find us anyway, and Facebook, CirclingSeattleSports, as well as following us on Converge, obviously, here, or on our YouTube, CirclingSeattleSports. All ways that you can find out about that. So the only league notes is September 23rd. The Orioles are having a bank assess their sale of the team. Baltimore is bringing in Goldman Sachs to assess the club for a possible sale amid disputes in the Angelos family. So interesting to see that.
Yeah.
So we look ahead for the Mariners this upcoming week of September 26th through October 3rd. The Mariners play 3 games against the Texas Rangers. September 27th and 28th are all 3 days, September 28th, 27th through 29th, are 6:40 p.m. start times. September 30th versus the Athletics is a 6:40 start. October 1st and 2nd are both 1:10 p.m. first pitch time. So, again, I cannot express how important this homestand is. The closest that the team can clinch officially their playoff berth is the 29th, but they're still fighting to host playoff games. So that's what's most important here. It's going to be a fun ride. So